You mentioned that the democracy is young. But my question to you is, given that the same people have been in politics and governance for almost 50 years in Nigeria, are they the only ones who can do the job? Are they attaining their goals? And isn't there anyone else? Do you care to answer the question, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very valid point. Tunji just laid out a whole variety of things that I think, we can deal with one by one. The simple answer to your question is that they're not the only ones that can do the job. There are a whole bunch of people out there, both in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria, very well qualified people are doing very well in different companies and even in governments, outside of Nigeria. But you've got to ask the question, just as you asked, rightly asked, why is it the same people? I think it's unfortunately it is a failure, on the part of the older generation of politicians, that do not have a legacy. And when I say do not have a legacy, one's legacy is what they were able to leave behind, when they leave the position that they were in, and whom they were able to groom to succeed them. Unfortunately, we have repetitive politicians. They keep coming back. In some cases, you have military generals that wear leaders, in uniform, and leaders outside, without the uniform. And unfortunately, it has a lot to do with the way government is run in Nigeria. Unlike in the Western world, where we live here in the United States, where people actually go into government to serve. Unfortunately, politicians in Nigeria are not there to serve. Most people are out there basically, I'm sorry to say, to line their pockets and improve the lives of people within their family, as opposed to people, citizens of the country in general. And I think that's one of the fundamental issues that we have, in terms of these people that keep coming back. And I think it's a very sad thing. Another aspect of that is the fact that you have a lot of, I think you have a mixture of traditionalism. I think it's probably the word. And there's a lot of well-meaning Nigerians that, could do a lot for the country and just don't want a part of that. And, things are not always what they seem. So there are people that are shying away from taking leadership because they just don't want to get into the ring, and play politics the way they play to Nigeria.
Please speak to the point that the people who have the potential to make changes don't actually come out to do so, and the hostile political climate in Nigeria.
Keep you away from trying to get into politics. And then two, when you hear of the enormity of funds that you have to expend for elective office, and it's not a society where you can go around and campaign for people to give you funds to run your election. You probably have to come out of pocket most times. So it's a little difficult for people who work hard for their money to expend it in such ways. If you're here and you have a documented wealth here, so you can't just take your money and put it in the politics, because they even track it. People and. There's no guarantee that if you go and run with all that money and you lose it, that's why there's political killing in Nigeria. I spent so many millions and I didn't get the office or something, then I'm going to kill the person that got it so I can get that position. Or if he's leading me, I sent out to assassinate him so that I can get the position. And so such things keep fairly decent people from trying to get.
It seems like the people are confused as to the direction the country is going and what to do themselves. So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, you pretty much said it right. I would have even thought that with the new dispensation in our democracy, that one of the things that they would have done from that initial standpoint was to start educating our people as to what democracy is all about. And when you talk about education, it starts with, first of all, educating our leaders. Because what I see is that our leaders are not informed as to what the office that they occupy requires. To me, the educational part of it has to start from, to educate from the bottom up, start from the people, and it starts from elementary school, teaching children about their civic responsibilities, you know, about how government is run, how government institutions work, so that from that early age, they start having the consciousness about what it is to be in a functional government, in a functional political environment. So education is key one, and then two, we have to also educate our people to understand that institutions of government are critical elements to build a society up. And they have to start putting in place institutions of government that is going to enable government to flourish and to be
I
successful.
thought that was a very valid point that he made in relation to education. Unfortunately, however, you know, the people that should implement what you've suggested are the people that stand to lose, you
That's
know,
very true.
were it to work. So, you know, that's just a very unfortunate thing. But, you know, we pray that we'll have a conscientious leader that, you know, would put all that aside and probably, you know, have a light bulb moment and decide to, you know, implement that. One other thing that I think, and this is one thing I've always said, I think you need a fundamental change in the mindset of people in Nigeria. That in itself would move Nigeria light years from where we are today. And what do I mean when I say fundamental mindset change? Essentially, the whole thing about corruption. I mean, people are so corrupt in certain areas that when you physically go into any institution in Nigeria and people do their jobs, some people feel compelled that they even have to give them something. That's how unfortunate the situation is. And, you know, the economic situation in the country is actually what has caused a lot of these things. It's actually a fundamental issue why we can't have real democracy in Nigeria. Essentially because you have so many people that are living below the poverty line. I mean, it's just amazing. You know, that's why you have certain people that feel that they have the right to buy their way into government. So until a lot of that changes, and, you know, families can have normal sustenance, then they can start to exercise their will. Today, their will is overborne. You know, it's basically economic duress. That is the reason why people are, you know, they basically follow these people that throw money at them, forgetting that when those people get there, all they're going to do is embezzle. And unfortunately, the system breeds itself and, you know, perpetuates itself. You know, so there has to be a change there. Coming back to, you know, your question about, you know, the elections that are to come. Personally, I don't think anything's going to change in terms of how the elections are conducted. I think you're going to have the same widespread, you know, rigging that has always happened in Nigeria, because I mean, I personally haven't seen any moves to try to forestall that. I mean, I was in Nigeria recently, and there was talk about the fact that they're having everyone re-register. Okay, and now they're going to take biometric, you know, information for the first time, which I think is a step in the right direction. However, knowing Nigeria, they have a saying. There's a saying in Nigeria that the person that made the rule also has the eraser to wipe it out. Okay, so people have ways of getting around these things, and I guess what they're trying to stop is, you know, massive registration or bogus registration. Okay, I think it will go some ways towards reducing rigging, but I think you're still going to have the same thing.